Hello, and welcome to a webinar hosted by Ui Charitable and Savology. We're delighted to have you here today. We are hosting a webinar called New Year, New Financial Tools. And we're excited and delighted to welcome Brock Clementson from Savology and Hyrum Granny from Ui Charitable Advisors, both friends and experts in their fields. We're offering this webinar today to really talk about some, fresh ideas, given it's the beginning of the year, fresh ideas to engage clients, to initiate conversations, to build relationships, and deepen those ties. All of that we know will help you grow your business and develop a broader reach into your clients' lives. So by way of introduction, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Savology. Savology is a firm dedicated to delivering financial wellness programs that support individuals reaching their financial goals. Financial advisors and investment advisors use Savology to engage with their clients very effectively. Brock is going to walk you through how you would go about doing that with Savology and give you a demo of, some of the features that Savology can offer in doing that. Hyrum at Ui Charitable Advisors is going to give you some other ideas, and that is how to engage your clients in a conversation around charitable giving. Ui Charitable Advisors offers philanthropic giving vehicles such as donor advised funds and so forth. Many of those vehicles are easy to implement and often used to, again, deepen relationships with clients and build your business. So before I turn it over to both Brock and Hyrum, just a quick review of housekeeping items. We're going to hold questions until the end. We expect that the whole webinar will run about 30 minutes, and we will keep to that. And it is being recorded for future viewing. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brock. Take it away, Brock.
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Sarah. Let me share my screen here. All right. So, as was mentioned, Savology is a client-led planning solution. So this is going to allow you to work with mainly the middle and mass affluent segments. How we do that is we deliver, as I mentioned, a client-led solution that's going to give you back your time, but still provide a good service for these types of individuals. So I'll go ahead and just run you through the software, what it looks like. I think that's the best way to show how it would work. Things to keep in mind would be the 3 key use cases here. So the first one's going to be building out a lower tier subscription type model with this service. The second's going to be working with employers. You can deliver a financial wellness solution that's going to give you access to their financial lives, and in doing so, help you win more private clients, as well as satisfying your employer clients by providing something to their employers. The third is going to be our prospecting tool. So you can use this tool as a lead magnet and provide a free deliverable to people through ads, through a button on your link, anything like that, or a button on your site, anything like that. So to get started, I'll go ahead and create an account here. That page you just saw was a landing page, what it would look like for your users. It is a white label solution, so we don't have to have the Savology logo up here. It could be just your logo, but we do show 2 logos just to represent that. It could be your logo plus an employer's logo. So if I create a quick account here, plug in a fake email there, and password, and jump into my dashboard. So here it's going to ask me to build a financial plan and run through a survey. This survey takes about 6 minutes on average, and it's what we need to do just to gather some baseline information so that we can create a more personalized experience for each user. So I won't run through every question just for the sake of time. I want to keep this to about 10 minutes or so, just since we have 30 minutes. But I'll give you an idea of the types of questions we ask in here. So this first section, we're going to ask some personal questions, things like, how old are you? Are you married? Do you have kids? What's your zip code? How old are your kids? Questions like that. Next is more focused on income and savings. So how much are you saving into retirement and other accounts? What types of retirement accounts do you have? What types of standard accounts do you have, and estimated balances for those accounts? The next section is more focused on assets and liabilities. So we'll ask, what assets do you have? Estimated values of those assets. We'll run through debts and liabilities and dive deeper into any of those so we can gather some information for a net worth analysis. Next section is more focused on risk management with some insurance related questions. And the last section, we just asked 3 questions. How do you feel about your health overall? What age would you like to retire? And what kind of lifestyle do you want to have in retirement? Once you complete that, once the user completes that, then it's going to jump back into your dashboard, but this time with access to 3 key deliverables. You are going to get a report card. So this is a overall quick look at how your financial situation is looking in an easy to digest format. So we do provide them with an overall grade. There's a social comparison tool here. You can see what percentile you fall in with some insights. We pull all of that from our 105,000 plus user database, as well as through public census data. So we can adjust for cost of living, things like that. If I click on any of these grades, I can dive deeper, see why I have this grade. We'll direct them towards relevant literacy courses and resources and related action items, which I'll jump into here in a second, as well as here is a customizable part of the software where you could plug in recommended providers or partners that you work with or services that you offer. Next key deliverable is going to be this action item center. So these are suggested next steps for them. I won't dive too deep in there, but just to give you an idea of the types of things we're suggesting. This is all personalized to each user, but things like increasing your savings rate, getting a will, increasing your emergency fund, opening a retirement account. Same as a report card. If I click on this, we're going to show them next steps, what it's for, what they need to do, and any recommended providers that you want to plug in there. We won't push them in any way on our side. Last key deliverable is going to be our financial plan here. So this is a foundational financial plan. We're just going to show them a quick overview of how their situation is looking and answer some questions that these users might have or more commonly have, as well as show them what needs work. So we have a net worth analysis here, some basic metrics here along the bottom. Anything they click on here, they can dive deeper into and expand. So if I want to see savings rate, I can see where I'm at currently. The next baby steps to get them to the suggested percentage based off of their goals. We can flip through assets, our risk section, see how their estate plan insurance coverages are looking, and the retirement section showing them their current trajectory, what it would look like if they continue doing what they're doing, as well as present some different options to them. So they want to live on less, retire late, run out early, and show some insights here on the bottom, things like retirement income. We'll show them their goals, a proposed trajectory, which again can be expanded if they were to move through the platform, work with you. That's what it could look like for them. In addition to that, we do have an additional resources tab. So if I click on modules, then we can jump into these tools that we've made available. So things like they can build a debt payoff plan. There's a risk tolerance tool. They can run through a questionnaire and get a risk tolerance score, a stress assessment, literacy assessment, budgeting tool. They can nominate guardians within the platform. These are all helpful things that you could push them to, or they could go through if they'd like some additional resources. We also have an expansive literacy section. So we have 18 courses here covering your general topics, things like retirement planning, savings, budgeting, investing. Any of these courses I can click on, and we have a number of lessons within each of those courses. Each lesson is going to have multiple learning formats, things like videos, polls, readings, and oftentimes looking at their current trajectory or numbers. And we'll always have a quiz there at the end just to make sure they retain the information. Lastly, we have a My Planner button. This could say My Advisor or whatever you want to say here, but this is just a good placeholder for you to plug in whatever information you'd like to put here so that the users, the clients, the participants you're working with can contact you by your preferred means of contact. So I am going to now jump into the advisor side. I am on a different tab. Could someone just tell me if they can still see my screen? That it says admin dashboard?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So what you're looking at here, this would be the advisor side or the admin side. What we just went through would be the user experience. In here, there's going to be some additional features and tools that you can look at. I'll run through them really quick just for the sake of time, but I think we'll have what you'd expect. So you can see all your users in here. You can dive deeper into any of their situations, see their profile, their financial situation, access to their assets, liabilities, account balances, retirement trajectory, risk management, anything you want to look at, you can see here, as well as what they're doing within the platform. And this can actually be printed off into a PDF of a full plan or plan summary that you could send to them. We also have some light CRM features where you could leave custom notes or action items that you could assign to them. If I jump back to user admin, we do have this group section. So for those of you that work with a lot of employers and are looking at this as a wellness solution, this is a great way to stay organized. You can create an unlimited amount of groups within the platform. You can separate them by group type, which could be prospecting, standard, or employer groups. Each group is going to give you a custom sign-up link. So when you send that over to those participants or clients, they stay in that group, and that can help with your reporting metrics, which I'll jump into right now. So if I jump into user activity, then we can see what's going on live within the platform. And in this metrics tab, you could sort this by group and print this page and send it to the employer just to show them, hey, here's how your employees are using the platform. Here's the benefit they're getting out of it. Answer some questions they'd probably have to make sure it's worth whatever you're charging them. We also have a metrics tab here, which is going to be every user within the platform that only you will have access to as the advisor. You could share this with the employer if you wanted, but you do have access to it, and it will provide some more detailed metrics, aggregate metrics showing average debt to income, emergency fund, and on this risk section, things like student loans, credit cards, mortgage, insurance, things like that. This last thing I'll show you here would be this reporting feature. So this is where you can report and filter down for any type of client you're looking for. So if you're, let's say you have hundreds of people in this software, you could filter down for someone who fits a certain specific offering you have, anything from net worth, liquid assets, life insurance gaps, mortgage interest rate, age, do they have kids, do they have a will? You can filter that down. So I'll just do this, for example, find anyone that fits that filter. And you can save those filters as audiences and actually create automations, things like assigning, I'll click on this one, things like assigning custom activities to them, alerting them of specific things or offerings that you have that directly benefit them, or simply exporting their information into a CSV so you can run your marketing campaigns. And of course, this button here would be to automate any of these tasks. I think that's a really good look at both sides of the software. Hopefully that answers any questions you have, or at least can garner some interest. One good point to make here is you can use this filtering tool as a good transfer section here to find your clients that could benefit from charitable giving or UI charitable advisors. So that would be, I think, a good transfer to jump into the next part of the webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Brock. I will go ahead and share my screen now. Yeah, we're excited to be here and really excited to be partnering with Savology on this webinar. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Hyrum Grenny. I run all of our partnerships at Ui Charitable Advisors. And when we first got in these initial conversations with Savology, the synergy was really obvious to us because of how highly customizable Savology is. And it helps build out an entire financial plan for advisors to use with their clients. It was just clear that a charitable giving and a donor advised fund fit so seamlessly into that plan, where it's becoming a more and more popular conversation that advisors are having and should be having more of with clients. And so the synergy was obvious, and we're really excited to be presenting alongside Brock and Savology. But the natural first question here, when we talk about charitable giving and what we do at UI Charitable, as Sarah mentioned, we do donor advised funds, and really we're a philanthropic back office for financial advisors and their clients, where we thrive with open-ended questions, and we can help solve complex charitable needs for client advisors and their clients. But the first question we get asked a lot is, why should I care as an advisor? We talk about charitable giving. talk about donor advised funds. Why do I need to be having these conversations? Why is it relevant to me as an advisor? And more we're seeing research come out to answer that exact question. And this is a study of over 1,200 RIAs and family offices that took a look at those that do offer charitable planning versus those that don't, and kind of the differences that you see as you analyze the two different groups. And more research like this is coming out around charitable planning. But this one, we thought that the results are pretty staggering. The first data point, as you see here, is firms that do offer charitable planning have 6 times the median assets. So they're just much larger firms. The second is that they see 3 times the organic growth. Not only are they larger, but they're growing faster, and it's organic growth from their internal processes and things they're doing. One of those things being these charitable planning conversations. And the third stat that I find the most interesting is that 27% more clients consider their advisor a multi-generational resource to them and their families. And I think as a service provider, and especially as an investment advisor, this is really the highest compliment you can receive, is that I've had a good enough experience with you. I trust you enough to refer you to my friends and family, the people that I care about the most. I think you can be a good resource to them. And so that's really how they continue to grow their businesses organically, is by receiving a higher score on this, receiving more referrals. And the firms that offer charitable planning clearly were much better in all of these categories. So I think it speaks for itself that these conversations about charitable giving build that foundation of trust for financial advisors, that financial advisors and clients have stronger relationships that are more likely to flourish into longer lasting relationships. And so then the natural next question is, okay, I know charitable giving matters. I know that I should be having these conversations. I'm going to start having them. How do I help find the tools necessary to help them execute? When I understand that they are charitably inclined, they want to give to certain charities, how do I help them actually execute on that? And a tool that's skyrocketing in popularity is a donor advised fund. And that's the primary product we offer at Ui Charitable is a DAF. We call them for short. A quick review on DAFs. I'm sure most of you are familiar, but for those that aren't, a DAF is a charitable giving savings account, essentially, is a DAF's function. It's an account that's owned under a nonprofit organization. And so when a client makes a contribution to their DAF, they get an immediate tax deduction. They fund the DAF, get an immediate tax deduction, and then can decide where they want those funds to go to the individual charities over time. They don't have to decide right away that I want to fund the Red Cross and the Boys and Girls Club and all of the charities they want to give to. They just need to fund this DAF, get the tax benefit, and then decide over time. DAFs don't have a restriction on a percentage that has to go out each year. They're actually very flexible in that sense, so you can fund it and then decide what your charitable goals are as time goes on. And I like how this model breaks that down. You see the 2 transactions. Transaction number 1 is funding that DAF, getting your tax benefit. And then number 2 is actually making the grant to the end charity. The beauty of them is that it's a great tax play now. Client gets the tax advantage and separates the timing of their tax benefit from the timing of their actual giving. And so because of that flexibility, DAFs have been going up and up in popularity, and they're going up in popularity among advisors because during this time in the middle, when the funds are in the DAF, advisors can actually retain control of those assets. Those DAF assets can be invested and grow tax-free over time. Advisor manages them and can continue having these charitable conversations with their clients. So DAFs are an awesome tool. We specialize in them at Ui Charitable. But what you'll see as you dig more into the world of DAFs is that there are lots of different DAF providers. There are a bunch of different providers that have different restrictions and limitations they've placed on donor advised funds. And that's really what set us out on our mission at Ui Charitable. We saw that there were tons of different DAF providers and a lot of guardrails set up around DAFs that said you can and can't give these assets to a DAF, you can and can't do these charitable distributions out of a DAF, all kinds of different restrictions that weren't from the IRS, the creators of DAFs, they were actually from the DAF provider. And we just saw that created a pretty bumpy road for charitable giving. And so at our core, our mission is, how do we make charitable giving easy? How do we really facilitate donor advised funds in a way that make it so clients can fund it the way they want, manage it the way they want, and make charitable distributions the way they want? And so those are the 3 areas we've broken it down into: contributing assets, managing the assets, and making the charitable distributions out. We'll talk about part 1 first. which is how do you fund the DAF, assets going in? With all DAF providers, as I mentioned, there's tons of them. Any of them are going to be really good at taking traditional assets. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. That's cash and public securities. What's becoming more popular among especially a high net worth group of clients is doing more work with the non-traditional assets. Clients are selling businesses, they're selling real estate, they have cryptocurrency holdings, especially with the surge we've seen in the last couple months. And they want to fund their charitable giving with the assets that make the most sense in their portfolios. So our goal was, how do we really thrive in that complexity and figure out how to handle these complex assets? The concept behind a donation of private business interests is that, let's say a client's selling a business for $10 million and they are charitably inclined. At some point they want to do something charitable. What they can do is actually, before the sale, make a donation of ownership in that business to a DAF. So let's say they put 10% of the business, representing $1 million, into a donor advised fund. Then the business sells just as normal. It doesn't interrupt the sale process at all. Business sells. That means the DAF would then, it's actually a member of the company. It's a partner now. So it would receive its 10% of ownership of the proceeds, the $1 million. Client would receive the $9 million. And now the client has a charitable giving account with $1 million in it. From a tax perspective, what that did is it allows the client to claim the $1 million tax benefit from the funds actually going into the DAF, and then also eliminate capital gains tax on the portion going to the DAF. So it's kind of a double tax benefit for the client, where if they were to just sell the business normally, receive the full $10 million, and then fund the DAF after, they'd pay capital gains on the full 10. They'd have to recognize the entire gain. This helps eliminate part of that gain and fund their charitable giving in the meantime. So that's why it's becoming so popular. High net worth clients are selling businesses. They're the clients that advisors want to target. So why not implement a charitable strategy that helps attract even more of them? So that's part one. We've really fine-tuned our processes to a point where we can accept all different structures of businesses, structures of real estate holdings. We've kind of seen it all at this point. And we take on most of that complexity and leave the client to just sell their business, essentially. Part two is the control of the assets. What happens while the funds are in the DAF? And this is a real pain point for advisors with a lot of DAF providers. Many have limitations before which an advisor can't touch a DAF account. It has to have a certain amount of money in a DAF before an advisor can even view it and manage it for a client. And even once it hits that threshold, the advisor is very limited on the types of investments they can make. There's always portfolio allocation limitations of, you have to have a certain amount in this, certain amount in this investment. And a lot of times it's just choosing from a few general mutual funds that the DAF has to offer. What we saw in that is an unnecessary hurdle for advisors to get over. And we wanted to make it so the advisor could manage this the same way they manage non-DAF accounts. So from the first dollar, the advisor could be assigned to manage that DAF. They can use their preferred custodian. We work with over 20 custodians. And so whether that's Schwab, Fidelity, Pershing, whatever it might be, the advisor can use their custodian. And then they can manage it the same way they manage non-DAF accounts. All of the investments available on their platform are available with DAF accounts. They also can charge their fee the same way they charge other accounts. So the way I explain it is just think of it as a plug and play option for advisors, where that's not outside of their operational processes for all of their other accounts. It plugs right in and allows them to align the DAF with all of the client's other assets, which means at the end of the day that they're able to then report on the DAF and continue having these charitable conversations with clients. The conversations matter. So we need to set up a structure, an operational structure that allows for the conversations to continue over time. And that's the way that the management of our DAFs are set up. And finally, part three is what really makes us tick at UI Charitable, and that's the impact side. That's what your clients can do with their DAFs. Many clients will just give to their favorite 2 or 3 US-based nonprofit organizations, and that's great. We can help support that. Most DAFs only support that. What we've tried to do is say, and I mentioned this at the beginning, that we're more of a philanthropic back office, where we're set up to help clients achieve whatever their philanthropic goals might be. So that could be granting to US-based nonprofits, like I mentioned, or it could be giving internationally. It could be giving a grant to a for-profit company that's also doing good in the world, or it could even be as unique as making an impact investment, which is essentially a for-profit company that's doing some type of social or environmental good, you can actually structure that giving however you'd like. If that's a recoverable grant, a loan, an equity investment, all kinds of unique structures can be used, and DAFs can support them. You just need a DAF provider that's willing to do the work and the due diligence to make that happen, and that's how we're set up. So all in all, it's designed to be a white glove, customized service, just like Savology is from a strategic standpoint. We've tried to do the same with our donor advised fund to help clients achieve their philanthropic goals. They set the strategy and we help them execute on it. And that is a quick look at us and Savology and our services. So we'll open it up for a few minutes of questions.
Thanks, Hyrum and Brock. We really appreciate it. I have collected a couple of questions, and I'm going to start with Brock and Savology.
Okay.
Brock, a couple of questions, which is Savology's a subscription? And how then do advisors charge for it? And does it integrate into an advisor's CRM?
Yeah, for sure. Savology is a subscription. So we bill advisors on a subscription basis. They can then take the software and charge whatever they'd like. So that's to answer your first question. Does it integrate with their CRM? Yes. So we do have some APIs set up that do allow them to talk to each other, which can transfer some, not all the information, but some basic information over things like new signups, basic information about them, which you can then build more automations around to ensure, you know, you're moving on a new lead or you're working with them appropriately. Things like that. Can you remind me the second question again?
So it was subscription.
Yeah.
Do advisors charge for it? And does it integrate with the CRM?
Gotcha. Yeah. Maybe just to dive a little deeper into how advisors are charging for this, or maybe what they're charging. I'll say there's probably 4 different ways. So I've heard of something called Planning Light, maybe something that's billed monthly at $50 to $75 a month. Maybe meet once or twice a year and are providing some advice, but the software is doing a brunt of the planning work. I would say that's probably meant for your foundational clients, your younger generation who are just getting into this. I've also heard quarterly engagements, monthly engagements, annual planning, or coaching programs, which could be one-time fees or higher monthly fees that they're charging. Annual fees could be something like $1,000 to $2,500 a year. But that's what we're seeing there. Obviously, we don't have direct access since we don't have visibility into what advisors are charging, but that's what we've heard. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to turn over to Hyrum. Hyrum, along the same theme of planning, how do donor advised funds get integrated into the financial planning process? And you know, to that end, how are financial advisors initiating the conversation about charitable planning and sort of the benefits of that?
Yeah. A really good starting point is just understanding if your clients currently give. What we see a lot of times is that clients are actively giving each year. It may be a lot, it may be a little, and advisors may or may not even be aware of that. And so it's really easy to set up a way to plan financially to accommodate giving if you understand if they're giving. And not only that, I think that initial question of are you currently giving and which charities are you supporting is kind of a simple, easy one that opens the floodgates to let's start talking about charitable giving and charitable planning, and you'll understand their passions, what they give to, and things like that. And then once you understand their giving patterns, you can create a financial plan around it. And I'd be happy to share resources about different strategies. One of them is contributing complex assets, the assets I was mentioning. If they're selling a business or selling real estate or have other holdings in cryptocurrencies or private investments, there's a world of possibilities of donating those to take care of charitable giving. There's also something as simple as, let's say they give 10 grand a year to charity, bunching that 10 grand, bunching 5 years worth of that 10 grand of giving into year one and saying, let's give 50 grand and get a larger tax benefit, and then just do all of your giving out of the DAF. And so there's from a tax perspective, that's much more tax efficient. It's a simple strategy, and clients are impressed when you throw it at them. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate it.
Back to you, Brock. Let's talk a moment about compliance and how Savology manages the complexity of compliance requirements on financial planners and advisors.
Yeah, for sure. So, as we all know and are aware, getting new softwares approved is or can be a process. So, we have gone through this a number of times. We have a complete compliance review package. So, if normally how it goes is if an advisor shows interest or a firm shows interest, we'd run through a demo. Then we'll run through the compliance process. This includes the compliance and, sending over our compliance package. Then it makes it easy. Everything's laid out. We've done this hundreds of times. So it'll have everything they need, answer any questions they need. Of course, we'll be in touch. We can answer anything else. If by some chance, let's say on the offhand, an advisor wants to use it, maybe the entire firm doesn't, it can be used as an OBA as well. We've seen it used multiple times as that as well. But what I'm trying to say is it is a fairly easy process. Obviously, compliance is not ultra fun, I'd say. But we've done it hundreds of times, so it is pretty simple to get through. Maybe it just takes a couple days.
And then just following up on that for you, Hyrum, with a donor advised fund, what does a financial advisor need to be mindful of when setting up a donor advised fund for a client? Are there compliance requirements or, how difficult is it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So very easy. In the nature of the DAF, donor advised fund, and advisor relationship, it's really the same as a client advisor relationship. Since a DAF, we're giving a tax benefit when a client funds a DAF becomes the legal owner of those assets that were donated. So when an advisor manages a DAF, they're actually managing the nonprofit's money. And so the nonprofit in this situation is the client. The advisor is the financial advisor, and onboarding us is the same as onboarding any other client. We'll sign all of their client disclosure agreements, any of the onboarding. They're billing us directly as the client. Their end client is the donor advisor on the fund still. They're involved in this, but from a legal perspective, the nature of the relationship is nonprofit is the client, financial advisor is who we're hiring as our advisor.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both we're just about at time. So I want to thank you both for this very informative kickoff to the year, a couple of great ideas to engage clients at the beginning of the year and start those conversations either on financial wellness, which has so many dimensions that you can explore, or with regard to, charitable goals and so forth. Again, all sorts of opportunities to explore. We'd be delighted to help you both. And so from Savology and UI Charitable, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again soon at another webinar.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.